Many times as I'm watching people try to communicate with their spouse, I have said to myself, this is a great mystery. It's actually what Paul says about marriage in Ephesians 5:32. There is a lot to marriage.
Marriage is maybe the hardest thing I've ever done.
As I was looking at what Paul says in that chapter, I thought to myself, there is no way. I can't teach this and bring out all of the nuance and meaning that is all through this passage in 1 week. I'm going to try to do it in 3. We'll call it a mini-series. You see, I can't possibly hope to go into all the details and answer all of the questions that come up. It's just too profound to handle quickly. And yes, even 3 weeks feels very quick. See, here's what I'm afraid of. My fear is that we're all going to come into this with all of our filters intact, and we're going to examine everything through those filters, and we're going to completely miss the point. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say that you had a bad marriage, or you were raised by a bad marriage, and then you hear a husband say to his wife, "I love you." You might hear it as, "I'm glad I control you." Because that's what you heard in the marriage that you're most familiar with. That's a psychological filter. Now, in all fairness, if you were raised in a great marriage, you also have a filter. You might be naively optimistic about marriage. You might think, I don't need a sermon series on marriage. Marriage is easy. You see, there are filters. And then there's cultural filters, not just psychological filters. I mean, if you were brought up in the ideology of Western individualism, that's most of us, then you might think marriage is all about me being happy. But if you were brought up in a different kind of culture, you might have had it proposed to you that marriage is all about your familial obligation. You see, those filters are going to have a field day then with ideas that are in this passage like submit and love. Would you stand back and consider that maybe everything you believe about marriage needs to be run through the filter of Scripture and not Scripture through what you believe about marriage? Let it challenge your filter itself. Look at it as a whole, because the biblical model of marriage is not traditional nor modern. It's not optimistic nor pessimistic about human nature. Instead, it's revealing something much, much deeper. And your satisfaction in marriage depends on understanding its deeper meaning. That's what we're going to be talking about this week and the next 3 weeks. I hope to see you here. Grace and peace to you.